This is Brett. Do we have a quorum and are we ready to get started?
Yes, we do have quorum.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the NPO Transportation Technical Committee May 6th meeting to order. Can I get approval of the agenda? Looking for a motion in a second.
So moved, Miller, Ankeny.
Second, Scott, City of Altoona.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Since we're doing this online, and we won't have everybody unmute to say aye. If there's any further discussion, anyone who wants to vote against the approval of the agenda? If not, the agenda is approved. Next up is the approval of the meeting minutes from the April 1st, 2021 meeting. Looking for a motion in a second.
So moved, Paul from Ankeny.
Second, Huesman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to approval of the meeting minutes of April 1st meeting? If not, the meeting minutes are approved. Next up is a report and vote on the fiscal year 2022 Unified Planning Work Program and Budget. Dylan.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to go to the next slide, we are looking at the final work program and budget. So just to recap, the work program has a few components to it. The main work elements you can see there. We've got 6 main ones that relate to the MPO's work, and then we have SERPA and the other contracted services. Everything we do works towards the goals of mobilizing tomorrow or some of the federal requirements that are put upon us. If you go to the next slide. A few projects that we identified that we've discussed in the past, but you'll see these in the plan are up there on the screen. I won't go through these, one by one, but if you have questions about any of these, there should be additional information about them in the work program, or feel free to ask questions. But these are the things you'll see coming over the next year, some of which have already started, but they'll continue into next year. And then the final slide, just so you approved a draft document in March. And since that time, we received comments from Iowa DOT, Federal Highway, and Federal Transit. Those were fairly minor updates, tweaking a few things here and there to make sure they really address the federal requirements. We did update the contract amount for SERPA, just based on some things that are going on more on the SERPA side, but had influenced us. So adjusted that. And then we added some additional explanation of projects per DOT's comments that give a little more explanation of why things might have been carried over from one year to the next or didn't happen last year and are being moved into 2022. So there's just a few comments next to some of the projects. We did add an additional project, which was suggested by the city of Des Moines, which is an analysis of downtown parking. And figure we can do that for this. And then if there's something similar for outside of downtown, we can always do that too, or it can be a model for that. And then there was a few just minor budget changes. The overall budget amount really didn't change. It stayed pretty close to what it was when you saw it last. But based on that SERPA contract changing, a few other things had to change. But like I said, overall, no big adjustments. So that's really what has changed from last time. When you saw this in March, we do need to approve this this month. And so would ask for a recommendation for the Exec and Policy Committee to also approve the document so we can get it in by the end of the month per DOT requirements. If there's any questions, I'm happy to address them.
All right, any questions for Dylan? If not, we're looking for a motion and a second to approve the Unified Planning Work Program and Budget.
So moved, Miller, Ankeny.
Second, Huesman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the 2020 Unified Planning Work Program and Budget? Anyone opposed? All right, we'll consider that approved. Next item up is a report and vote on the federal fiscal year 2021 through 2024 TIP program amendment. This one's for Dart Shiryoshi.
Yes, thank you. The tip amendment request is from DART to adjust funding for some of their transit formula projects. So you all might recall right about this time of the year, DART comes back and they make some adjustment to their initial estimates for some of their transit formula projects. And so they go back in there and make those adjustments, and you can kind of see here on the screen, and this was also included in your agenda packet. It includes a few different line items, and you can kind of see how the funding is being moved, and is also incorporating a few other things, such as additional funding that they might have received. So other than that, the projects themselves are not changing, just the budget line items are being adjusted to update their projects. And this particular budget adjustment has already been approved by their commission in the month of April. So once it's approved by their commission, the DART comes back to the MPO and requests an amendment to the tip so that these changes can be incorporated. So that is essentially what we are doing right now. We support the amendment request and are asking for your recommendation of approval to go ahead and reflect these changes within the 2021 through 2024 tip. So with that, if you have any questions, I will be happy to take them at this time.
All right, any questions for Shreyoshi? If not, we're looking for a motion and a second to approve the federal fiscal year 2021 to 2024 tip for this DART request.
Motion to approve, Huesman.
Second, Moritz from Ankeny.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone who'd like to vote against the motion? If not, we'll consider the motion approved. Next up is another 2021 to 2024 tip amendment requested by DOT. Shreyoshi?
Yeah. Yes, so as you mentioned, another tip amendment request from the Iowa DOT, and their request is to add a project that received federal funding. So this is a paving project for an eastbound exit ramp on their West US 65 interchange. So it's received, as you can see, it's received federal funding through the NHBP program. So essentially, they're just asking us to add or include this project into the tip as it's received federal funding. So there are no project modifications or any other tip modifications. We are simply adding the project into the tip. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them at this time. Otherwise, we are recommending approval of this tip amendment request.
All right, any questions? If not, looking for a motion and a second to approve this tip amendment for DOT.
This is Neighbor, moved.
Montoya, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to this motion? If not, we'll consider that approved. Next up is federal fiscal year 2019 to 2023 passenger transportation plan amendment. Allison?
Yep, thank you. Similar to what Shreyoshi just presented, DART's changes also need to be updated in the passenger transportation plans. We're putting forth an amendment today. The funding specifically for the PTP is from the 5310 program that is deemed the special needs program and really aims to increase mobility for persons over 65 and or those with disabilities. There is some reallocation for the microtransit program in Ankeny, as well as shelters and bus replacements. Again, this was approved by DART's commission in April 2021, and MPO staff recommends approval as well.
All right, any questions for Allison? If not, looking for a motion and a second to approve the 2019 to 2023 passenger transportation plan amendment.
Sturm, so moved.
Second, Huesman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to the motion? All right, if not, we'll consider that approved. Next up is a report on the environmental justice update.
Me again. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So we presented the draft report of the environmental justice update last November and December to the MPO committees. After bringing it to the MPO executive committee, they requested that a subcommittee be formed to look at the methodology. And so we convened twice with the members you see below to discuss our federal and state requirements for environmental justice, the methodology, and then any funding outcomes. There was a recommended amended methodology, which I'll get into next. And then the group also recommended that we set funding targets similar to roads and bridges for spending in EJ areas. Next slide. So historically, you'll see that the MPO has used the regional average as the threshold for degrees of disadvantage. So whether or not a census tract would be be counted in the degrees of disadvantage. So on the left of this chart here, you'll see that that number can vary. We calculate the regional average and then find the census tracts that are over that. And so that can vary there. The subcommittee recommended to use the top 30% of the census tracts instead. And so we at the MPO translated that to a 70th percentile threshold. So we calculated out that 70th percentile, and then any census tracts with percentages over that would then be a degree of disadvantage. Just a reminder here, so there are 113 census tracts at this time in the Des Moines metro area. And so that 70th percentile would cap the number of census tracts counted in the degrees of disadvantage at 34. You can go to the next slide. So there was an attached report to your agenda that really goes through all the degrees of disadvantage, but I just wanted to bring this main map right back to you all so you can see the changes that happened there. This change does bring things back to the urban core, and so wanted to bring that to your attention. If you have any questions on that, we can go into the next slide. So from here, obviously I'm reporting out to the MPO committees. We have exec next week and then policy later in May. Once that's all said and done, we'll go ahead and update the online mapping portals with the shape files you have, so folks can have them at their disposal, and then integrate this into the MPO planning processes. And then as one of the recommended pieces was to look at the funding mechanisms and set a target for spending in EJ areas, MPO staff will begin to review that process and that scoring criteria. So that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Any questions for Allison? All right, if not, next up is the 2022 to 2025 Transportation Capital Improvement Program. Allison, this is you as well.
Yes, you can go ahead. Thanks. Every year we do collect data from all of our member communities to put together the Transportation Capital Improvement Program. That will happen again this year. MPO staff will be contacting folks on the technical committee for this information. Usually it's roads and bridges and things like that, but we'll also be requesting any water trail improvements, hazard mitigation projects, and then green infrastructure projects as well. The first two on that list have been collected in the years past. The green infrastructure one is newer this year, and it's last year, the watershed management authorities took one initial collection, and so this will be a continuation of that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Any questions for Allison? All right, next up is a report on the 2022 to 2025 TIP program development. Shreyoshi?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So just wanted to give you all a quick update on the tip development for this year. So we've received input from our member communities on project programming, and that's what we're working on right now. So we're finalizing the programming of projects within the different fiscal years. We're also working on development of the actual tip document. We expect that the draft document and the tip project list will be available for review after May 30th. So we'll give you all a notification that it's up there for your review. We will be submitting the draft tip to the Iowa DOT on June 15th, and subsequently the final document is submitted on July 15th. Following the development of the draft document, we also enter a public comment period during which, in addition to our member communities, the members of the general public also have an opportunity to look at the document and provide us any feedback that they might have about the tip projects and the document. And we also expect to hold an online public meeting tentatively scheduled on June 23rd at 5 p.m. We will be again sending out information about that as we have that finalized to you. Also, you can share to whoever in your community might be interested in attending the online public meeting. So just wanted to give you a heads up on where we are. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to take them at this time. Otherwise, this is just an update. Thank you.
Any questions for Shreyoshi? All right, thank you. Next up is a report on EV charging infrastructure and alternative fuel corridor designations. Allison.
Thank you. Again, this is just an update. Federal Highway did just release a white paper about how federal funding can be used for EV charging infrastructure. It goes over programs that we're all familiar with, like STBG, RAISE, which was formerly Build, Infra, and other programs like NHPP. That was in the recent TIP amendment. And so we just wanted to make you all aware of this as you're putting projects together. This would be a great resource to incorporate that stuff in. And in that same note, Federal Highway also has the alternative fuel corridors. So they just released the newest list of the designations for the ready and pending list. Iowa continues to grow on there. Interstate 35 and 80 are on that list. 235 is not, so that could be a goal for the region to set. State routes are eligible for this as well. There's a number of state routes across Iowa that are included in here. And it's not just electric vehicle. We want to make sure that you know that light natural gas, hydrogen, other alternative fuels are included in there as well. So there was a link to both the document and the designation website in your agenda packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
All right, any questions for Allison on this item? All right, next up, Allison again on a rain campaign update.
This is the last you'll hear from me today. Okay, so I just wanted to give you all an update. It's beautiful out. Spring is here, and so the rain campaign has been working on rolling out a couple new things. We did some marketing with an ad on PBS in March and April to kind of get people primed and ready as they were thinking about their gardens and planting the seed of, you know, potentially putting in native landscaping or doing a soil quality restoration to add function to some of these garden beds. We also took the art to the Botanical Center or Botanical Garden in April, and it has just returned to its trailer, but the calendar of events still has room. So if you'd like to contact myself, John Swanson, or Julie Perot, you're more than welcome to, and we'll figure out how we can get the art to any events you might be having in your city. We also updated the lawn sign. We really obviously have been using this branding of the umbrella and the raincoat, but it's not giving the signals and the information that we wanted. So we updated it to the smaller square on the left there. And so then it just shows the actual practice. So soil quality restoration can be you know, kind of startling if you're walking by it in a neighborhood. And so this will give people the idea of what it is and then give them a link to find out more about the rain campaign. Last year, we did the quarantine 12 pack. While we're not going to do the quarantine 12 pack again this year, we are doing a plant sale with partner nurseries from across central Iowa and actually rolling this out to the statewide. And so we'll be putting out some publications about that. Polk City also got a new program, and we hope it's going to be a new model for cost sharing soil quality restorations, similar to what Polk County is doing with their saturated buffer projects. They're really pooling projects together and bidding them out in one bid instead of individual homes. And so using this as a more neighborhood approach. We are releasing more outreach materials coming soon, some videos and things you can post to your website. We will make sure that city staff is aware of this so they can link it to their social media and websites. And then again, so the RAIN campaign was a pilot program that was originally for the Des Moines area and central Iowa. The DNR has been really impressed with the work we've been doing. And so we're having conversations to figure out how to roll this out better to the statewide. And so you'll be seeing this, you could be seeing this if you're in Dubuque or Decorah and things like that. It's starting to roll out at a bigger scale now. And just one last thing is Julie Pearl did send a request to city staff for program updates, program projects that were applied for and completed and things like that. So if you did receive one of those and you could get that information back to her as soon as possible, we'd greatly appreciate it. That's all for me today. I'd be happy to take any questions you have at this time.
All right, thanks, Allison. Next up is the upcoming events. Gunnar.
Good morning, everyone. Want to let you know about an event on Monday. This is part of the Economic Development District discussion that we've been having with the region, which we've briefed you on previously. As part of setting up the Economic Development District, we need to create a planning document called a Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And in order to do that, we're required to do a SWOT analysis and goal setting for the document. And so we've set up a stakeholder meeting for people to provide input on the SWOT analysis and goal setting. That's at 1:30 Monday on May 10th. There is a Zoom link ready for you, and I will be emailing that out to you all after this meeting. Mostly this is for economic development practitioners, but other city and county officials would benefit from being there as well. And I would say elected leaders could benefit by participating as well. That's it from me, unless you have any questions.
All right, thanks, Gunnar. Any other non-action items of interest to the committee? Hearing none, next meeting date is June 3rd, 2021 at 9:30. With that, we'll consider us adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.